Tonight on the home straight, Victoria relaxes the hard border with regional New South Wales. Also tonight, Brisbane's 3-day lockdown is lifted, but one new positive case has just been announced. The Democrats plan to remove Donald Trump from the White House after the Capitol riot. And the Indian side holds fast to secure a draw in the third test. Good evening, Paul Higgins with ABC News. Well, there's huge relief tonight for thousands of Victorian holidaymakers who've been trapped in regional New South Wales since the 1st of January. Under the new government traffic light system, they now need to apply for an online permit, but a short time ago the website was still not working. Brisbane and Greater Sydney remain designated red zones with entry to Victoria banned. Here's state political reporter Bridget Rollison.
The border between Victoria and regional New South Wales was supposed to be reopened at 6 o'clock, meaning many Victorians who've been stranded interstate for 11 days could apply for a permit as part of a new traffic light system to return home. But a last-minute hitch has delayed the online application process.
I'm very pleased to be able to say that regional New South Wales from 5:59 p.m. tonight will become orange, so we'll move out of the red zone.
The new system is designed to end public confusion over state closures. A red zone will mean you can't enter Victoria without an exemption. The penalty is almost $5,000. An orange zone will enable you to enter Victoria after you've applied for a permit, but you must not have been to a red zone and you must get tested within 72 hours. And if you've been anywhere else designated a green zone, you still need to apply for a permit before travelling to Victoria.
My understanding is through Service Victoria is that it's a matter of minutes, so it's just a few minutes to get that permit issued.
Melbourne woman Elizabeth Hurley has been stuck in Lake Macquarie and has been stressed about when she could come home. She is now ready to fly.
I've booked that flight in anticipation that I can leave. We can't apply for a permit until 6 p.m, so I'm just hoping that everything's okay with the permit system.
While regional New South Wales has been updated to an orange zone and returned travellers from there have been freed from quarantine, Greater Sydney and Brisbane remain red zones, and health authorities are unable to say exactly when that will change, despite many other states and territories already reopening their borders to Brisbane.
Other jurisdictions will make their own determinations, but it's my view that it needs to be considered every day, and that we really need to see more negative tests in close contacts play out over the next day or so.
Police will stay at the border with the permit system said to remain in place until authorities are confident enough Australians have received a vaccine.
It is an extraordinary overreach to say that every single Victorian now needs the government's permission just to be able to come back home. Victorians don't live in a bubble. We are Australians as well as Victorians, and to say that every single Victorian now needs the government's say-so before we can simply come home does smack of overreach.
The new traffic light system may not prevent a repeat of what happened over New Year's Eve when the border was slammed shut. The Premier says an area can still go from a green zone to a red zone if an outbreak occurs, and has warned Victorians' travel plans could be impacted at any time.
There's nothing that can be done to prevent that. If I get public health advice to lock out another part of the country from people from that part of the country travelling to Victoria, I will not hesitate to do that.
For the 5th day in a row, Victoria has recorded no locally acquired cases, but there was a scare at this childcare centre in Armidale in Melbourne's southeast after a child tested positive to the virus in Israel 2 days after being in the classroom. The Chief Health Officer believes it will end up being a negative result because of the type of test used, but the centre is closed for cleaning. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Melbourne.
Now to breaking news out of Queensland, the partner of the Brisbane cleaner who contracted the virulent strain of the virus has also tested positive to COVID-19. The man has been in isolation since the 7th of January. Genome sequencing is underway, but authorities say he is likely to have the fast-spreading variant. The test result hasn't stopped lockdown being lifted across Greater Brisbane after a 3rd day of no new coronavirus cases in the community. But masks will be mandatory in some places for the next 10 days. Rachel Rieger reports.
It was a different start to the working week in the River City, and then came the welcome news.
We are able to end our lockdown after 3 days.
We had an issue we had to solve, and this was a quick way of doing it.
So we'll go back to Cairns and I think we'll stay there for the rest of the year, won't we?
Probably, yeah.
Yes.
The stay-at-home orders were lifted at 6 p.m. The strict measures were sparked after a hotel quarantine cleaner spent 5 days in the community while infected with the highly contagious UK strain.
For the next 10 days, while we see out the 14-day incubation period, we still do have to be on heightened alert.
But several restrictions will remain in place across Greater Brisbane for the next 10 days. Everyone must carry a face mask when leaving home. They must be worn indoors at shopping centres, supermarkets, gyms, places of worship, airports, on planes, public transport and in taxis and rideshare. You won't need to wear one at work if you can socially distance while exercising outdoors or while travelling in your own vehicle.
When in doubt, wear a mask.
New rules also apply for businesses and venues. Diners at restaurants, cafes and pubs must be seated. Dancing is again banned but will be allowed at weddings. Funerals and weddings can have up to 100 attendees, while gatherings in homes and public will be capped at 20. Visitors won't be allowed at hospitals, aged care facilities, disability accommodation and prisons. And concert venues, theatres and outdoor stadiums are allowed 50% capacity. Just in time for the Gabba to host India for the 4th cricket test on Friday, with masks and socially distanced seating enforced for the 18,000-strong crowd. All ticket holders will be refunded and given the option to repurchase.
So those people will get first priority on ticket sales from Wednesday afternoon.
The Premier has defended the decision to send Greater Brisbane into a snap lockdown, saying it gave health authorities time to track down, test and quarantine close contacts of the cleaner with the highly contagious strain.
Definitely not an overreaction. It was absolutely supported by AHPPC. It was supported by National Cabinet.
Rachel Rieger, ABC News, Brisbane.
A mother and her 3 children who were killed in a weekend house fire are being remembered as a beautiful family dedicated to one another. The 50-year-old husband is still in hospital in a serious condition, and the arson squad continues to investigate the deadly blaze. Nicole Asher reports.
Treasures and treats for 3 little girls and their mother.
The flower for my girlfriend and the 3 beautiful love hearts to tell them that I love them and in my heart. And the cupcake they used to like, I baked for them.
She was a wonderful, devoted, loving mother. The girls were beautiful. That's what's the saddest part about it. I saw them every single day going to school. The mum taking them, they were beautiful, wonderful, loving people.
Friend Michelle Belly met Mizukano while working together in childcare.
Karoo is such a beautiful soul, so warm, caring, such a lovely personality. I don't think anyone could have a bad word to say about her.
She was 38. Her daughters were aged 3, 6 and 8. 11-year-old Vinayana knew the older sister Akko through dance classes.
I left flowers and I left a hula outfit because I know that she did love dancing and she was actually a very good, talented dancer.
A clearer picture is slowly developing of what happened.
Like a lot of arsons, they are sometimes difficult to understand and appreciate without, I suppose, getting some insight by those present how it occurred.
The fire started just after 1:30 on Sunday morning in the garage where neighbours say cooking oils were stored.
Inflammable liquids that were part of a legitimate business that I understand the surviving party was involved in.
Hanish Bunia lives a few doors down and called 000.
Then he started shouting, my kids, there are kids upstairs. And he ran up with, I think, 2 firemen.
He's been identified as Hiroyuki Kikuchi, Mizukano's husband. The sole survivor remains in a stable but serious condition here at the Alfred Hospital. Detectives investigating the cause of the fire will speak to him when he's well enough to be interviewed.
He was burned from his backside. There was burn marks on his back. And the whole face was black and he was under shock.
Nicole Asher, ABC News, Melbourne.
A grass fire came dangerously close to homes at Taylors Lakes in Melbourne's northwest this afternoon. Fire Rescue Victoria says a car fire in a paddock quickly spread near houses in Rollinson Place. A second grass fire was burning near homes in Roll Place. 7 fire trucks and an aerial water bomber have now controlled the blaze. Residents living next to the grassland were warned to leave their homes and move several streets away from the fire. Moves to remove or impeach Donald Trump are underway, even though his term ends in just 9 days. The Speaker of the House of Representatives has confirmed the Democrats are planning to move as early as tonight. On Tuesday, the House will attempt to pass a resolution calling for Mike Pence to remove the President by invoking the 25th Amendment. The Vice President will be given 24 hours to respond, but it's unlikely he'll invoke that amendment. If that happens, Democrats will begin the process of impeachment with a vote by Thursday. Because the Democrats hold the majority in the House, it'll probably pass. But come next Thursday, Joe Biden will be inaugurated and Donald Trump will be no longer president anyway. Democrats have also suggested they'll wait until after Biden's first 100 days so that it doesn't dominate the new president's agenda, and then send the articles of impeachment to the Senate. It means that a successful impeachment means that Donald Trump would not be able to run again in 2024. Mr. Trump has lost his preferred method of talking to his supporters after some social media outlets closed his accounts. As Matthew Doran reports, the decision has sparked a debate about free speech in the USA and in Australia.
A mournful convoy along the now quiet streets of Washington, D.C., honouring Capitol Hill police officer Brian Sicknick. He died from injuries suffered during last week's deadly riots at the seat of American democracy. It was that violence and claims the outgoing president had incited the mob and defended their actions.
We love you. You're very special.
Which led social media companies to ban Donald Trump from their platforms.
Those decisions were taken by commercial companies, but personally I felt uncomfortable with what they did.
What's happening? The decision by Twitter, Facebook and others fueling a philosophical argument among government MPs about whether freedom of speech is being stifled.
As Voltaire said, I might not agree with what you say, but I defend the right to say it.
And demands for consistency, given other egregious posts such as a photo tweeted last year by a Chinese Foreign Ministry official remain online.
If you're going to take down Donald Trump's Twitter feed, then think very carefully and closely about also taking down that photo.
Google, Apple and Amazon have blocked access to social networking service Parler, which has grown in popularity with Trump supporters.
Is the only social media platform that protects your constitutional right to free speech.
Concerned it's not doing enough to prevent posts encouraging violence. Unlikely to sway the tech giant's view, but venting his fury anyway, is coalition backbencher George Christensen. He wants laws stopping what he describes as censoring free speech on social media, while he uses his own online presence to push conspiracies about the US election and the coronavirus pandemic.
If I'm not in favour of censorship for Twitter, then why would I be wanting to censor George Christensen?
If Australians are to accept that the crackpots aren't running the show in Scott Morrison's LNP, then we need action.
The debate over posts on social media certainly isn't new, but Donald Trump's ban has brought it into sharper focus. And if lawmakers ever want to wade into this incredibly murky territory, the challenge will be defining exactly what is or isn't acceptable.
It would be a very large task, and it would mean that the platforms have to redefine their business model.
This is the Conan sword.
One old warrior is glad Donald Trump has been silenced.
The good thing is that he soon will be as irrelevant as an old tweet.
Even though those old posts leave a sad legacy. Matthew Doran, ABC News, Canberra.
Cricket Australia could slap indefinite bans on spectators found to have racially abused the visiting Indian players in the third test in Sydney. The International Cricket Council, Cricket Australia and police are investigating an official complaint lodged by the Indian team.
Heckling is a common fixture in cricket in Australia. But India alleges spectators have crossed a line and say it isn't the first time.
They have been quite nasty. They have been hurling abuses as well.
But this is a time where they've actually gone one step higher and used racial abuses.
The allegations raised by Indian bowler Mohammad Siraj follow another complaint on Saturday, leaving officials on alert.
I have heard a couple of things from the Indian team management, which I can't repeat here, and they are very, very racist in nature. It's something to do with the colour of your skin.
Yeah, get security around there, and if there's been abuse directed towards the players, just kick them out straight away. Not welcome ever.
Yesterday, play was halted and police escorted several people from the stand, leaving fans gutted.
I remember standing in this ground with my son supporting Adam Goods when he was going through something similar. So it's sad.
Absolutely unacceptable, but they seem to have moved quickly and evicted the people.
This must be definitely dealt with iron fist, and we must make sure that it doesn't happen again.
India's captain Virat Kohli has called for the incident to be looked at with absolute urgency and seriousness. The Australian team is standing with its opponent.
Just wanted to let the Indian team know that we were with them on that. Like I said, it's not condoned by any of us. We're really disappointed that happens when teams come to Australia, and we want it to stop.
I've hated it as a player. I hate it as a coach. We've seen it in different parts of the world, and it's really sad to see it happen in Australia.
If those claims are proven to be correct, it's so un-Australian.
With several investigations underway, one thing is clear. Everyone agrees discrimination has no place in sport. Rani Hayman, ABC News.
Still to come this hour, the Republicans calling for Donald Trump to face justice.
The issue is what he's done to this country. He's broken the law, and he needs to pay a price for that.
If you don't think that this in some way is encouraging the next McVeigh, I think you'd be wrong. He's a domestic terrorist.
Plus, the test match marred by claims of racist abuse. That's coming up.
Specialist divers are trying to pinpoint the exact location of the black boxes from a crashed Indonesian passenger plane after their beacons were received this morning. Authorities hope they'll explain what caused the jet to crash into the Java Sea.
Navy divers have found the Boeing 737 wreckage scattered across a wide area of the sea floor. Underwater signals have also helped them locate the plane's black boxes, but they're yet to retrieve them. A huge search has continued almost round the clock. Recovery teams have already hauled tons of debris to the surface, including the plane's engine. Personal belongings and human body parts, a heartbreaking sign that no one survived. Families of the 62 passengers and crew have endured an agonising wait for news of their missing loved ones or clues as to what caused the plane to plunge almost 30,000 feet into the sea. Many are giving DNA samples to help the identification process.
We will try to retrieve debris and everything else. The quicker we can find victims, the better.
Rati Windania sent her husband a photo of herself with their children just before takeoff, saying, "Bye-bye, family, we're heading home for now." One man whose wife was on board says she wasn't supposed to be on the flight.
She arrived at the airport at 4 a.m. to check in and was told the flight was changed to Srivijaya Air. She was supposed to take Nam Air.
Srivijaya Air has a checkered safety record. It lost 3 other 737s from accidents and bad landings since 2008. More than half its fleet was later grounded by Indonesia's Transport Ministry because of airworthiness concerns. The airline insists the plane that crashed on Saturday was in good condition, even though it was 27 years old. It could be months before the cause of the crash is clear. Anne Barker, ABC News.
Thousands of people on the outskirts of Papua New Guinea's capital are facing eviction from their homes. Almost half of the residents of Port Moresby live in informal settlements, and often they have no legal right to the land their homes are built on.
Paul Sukma is actually retired from teaching, but he came back as a volunteer to run this school on the outskirts of Port Moresby.
We have well over 200. The number is increasing because of the movement of people from the city
The school's been set up and funded by the community, but the students and the rest of the residents are now facing eviction.
We are really worried because where else can they go?
Bushwara is one of more than 200 informal or squatter settlements in Papua New Guinea's capital. A chronic shortage of affordable housing has resulted in people building homes on vacant land in the city. Many people here have been evicted from other settlements before.
After the first eviction, we slept outside, had no food, and the children didn't go to school.
Residents say the first settlers arrived here 20 years ago, and since then they've built the school, churches, stores and farms.
The pioneers of this settlement, we came here, we make a tent and we slept here.
Thousands of people now call Bushwara home. But one of PNG's biggest superannuation funds owns most of the land that Bushwara is built on, and it wants to develop a suburb and affordable housing for its members. The settlers went to court to try to fight an eviction notice, but they lost and have been ordered to leave by March. They're planning another legal challenge.
There's no other place in the city that we can move out.
The city's governor is trying to negotiate a compromise to keep some of the land for the current residents. But this is just one of an estimated 200 settlements in the city.
45% of the land in the city is basically occupied by unplanned settlement.
With PNG's population booming, finding a solution for the people here will just be the start. Natalie Whiting, ABC News, Port Moresby.
To finance now, here's Elise Morgan.
Today's figures show retail spending jumped 7.1% in November to be up a very strong 13% for the year. It puts sales well above their pre-COVID levels. The spending jump in November suggests the rollback of JobKeeper payments didn't have an immediate effect on consumers. Good news. The only area that Australians pulled back on was booze. Turns out there's better things than drinking alone. Spending on eating out rose, but not in the double digits we saw in most other categories. But the ABS data is from November, so here's bookings up to last week. Bookings are up around 200% around Christmas, a good sign for spending into the new year. And despite the positive retail data, the local market fell almost 1% today. The energy sector was the only one not in the red. Retail as a whole failed to be lifted by the sales data, but there were a few strong performers. Now, there's rising concern in global markets. We could be in a bubble. This chart shows the value of global markets versus global growth. It's currently at 120%. The last time we were here, we were hit with the financial crisis. Speaking of Bitcoin, the crypto hit another fresh record over the weekend as rising US bond yields hurt demand for safe haven assets. It peaked at nearly $42,000, but in the past 24 hours, it's seen its biggest slump in almost a year, dropping 12% to around 33,000. It's hard to keep up. Meanwhile, despite positive data out of China, the Aussie dollar has lost ground and it's now trading below 77 US cents again. And that's finance.
India has battled for the entire final day to hold on for a famous draw against Australia in the third cricket test at the SCG. The tourists briefly threatened to chase down the imposing victory target before knuckling down in the last session amid mounting injuries. It means the series remains at 1-1.
Frustration for Australia, elation for India.
We have just witnessed one of the great escapes.
This fighting draw felt like a win for the visitors.
Incredible resolve, resilience, determination.
It's all about showing character, fight till the end and not to think about results. So really happy the way we fought.
We certainly create enough chances to win the game and I think we did. Yeah, it's a tough one to swallow.
Facing a record SCG run chase of 407, India made a nervous start to the final day.
It's off the ground, taken, gone. Lion strikes.
But any thoughts of an easy win for Australia were quickly dispelled after Rishabh Pant's arrival.
And again. Oh, even bigger.
Shrugging off an elbow injury, he put the pressure back on the hosts.
And he does it again. Same result.
With Cheteshwar Pujara stonewalling at the other end, the pair put on 148 before Pant was dismissed 3 runs shy of his century.
An extraordinary innings is brought
India's hopes of an unlikely victory were extinguished with Pujara's departure.
Big wicket for Hazelwood in Australia.
The tourists were limping.
Another injury. That's not good.
Bruised and battered.
Ouch. Oh, that hurt.
But Hanuma Vihari and Ravi Ashwin bravely fought on. They saw out the final session with a combination of grit and luck.
And a punch is out of his hand. Is that the victory gone right there?
To hold on for a much-earned draw.
India obviously fought really hard. Our bowlers kept coming and did their hardest today.
The series now moves to Brisbane after the Gabba was cleared to host the final test at half its usual capacity.
The biggest change being that people will be required to wear a mask, and basically it's no mask, no entry.
Will Pukovski is in doubt with a shoulder injury, but skipper Tim Payne will play. He was fined but avoided suspension after being found guilty of showing dissent at an umpire's decision. Chloe Hart, ABC News, Sydney.
There's doubt over whether Thursday's Big Bash League game here in Melbourne can go ahead because of border restrictions. The Brisbane Heat and the Melbourne Renegades are scheduled to play at Docklands Stadium in Melbourne's first BBL game of the season. But Victorian health authorities say the Heat won't be allowed to enter Melbourne under current COVID restrictions. Last night, the Heat lost to the Sydney Sixers in a thrilling finish on the Gold Coast. Captain Chris Lynn helped the Heat reach a modest 148 from their 20 overs before a scintillating knock from Dan Christian, who hit 61 not out from 38 balls as the Sixers chased down the victory target on the final ball.
He does it. Dan Christian, just too much experience.
The win means the Sixers have moved to the top of the league ladder. A grass fire fanned by strong winds has damaged properties near the town of Lucindale in South Australia. With temperatures in the high 30s, the blaze started in the state's southeast at lunchtime. It spread quickly, leaving more than 3,000 properties without power. Wind changes have made it hard to contain the fire, with more than 14,000 hectares burned. Smoke from the fire is drifting across Victoria's southwest and the Wimmera. Well, most of us have just had our hottest day so far this summer, but a change is coming to southern Victoria anyway. The heat came after a mostly mild night. Warm in Charlton and Oyen, where it stayed above 24 degrees. Today, Longrenong near Horsham topped the state with a high of 40 degrees. Falls Creek and Hotham, Mount Hotham of course, were coolest with 20 degrees, if you were looking for somewhere cool. It was Melbourne's hottest day since last January, 36.7 the high at 3:21 p.m. and there wasn't much relief from the heat on the beaches because we didn't have any sea breeze today. Right now on the sand, it's 35 degrees. An uncomfortable night in Adelaide where it didn't drop below 28 degrees and it was hot there again today. Hot in Hobart as well. Showers in Townsville and also in Darwin. Cloud moved into the state today ahead of a pressure trough and weak cold front that are going to bring a temporary cool change to southern Victoria. That change will move through overnight, but the cooler air won't get very far inland. So it'll be hot again tomorrow in northern Victoria and then on Wednesday hot statewide before a stronger cool change. But there won't be much in the way of rain for us over the next week. Tomorrow, that is where the rain is headed for. Hobart's in for some early showers, and in Canberra, afternoon showers and thunderstorms. Mostly sunny in Perth, Adelaide and Sydney. Back home, it'll be a warm evening until a cool change over southern parts overnight. There's a chance of high-based showers and lightning in southwest and south central areas. Tomorrow will be warm to hot and sunny across our north, but morning cloud in the south and it will be milder. Some afternoon showers and thunderstorms on the eastern ranges. And just a reminder, there is a total fire ban until midnight in the Mallee, Wimmera and Northern Country. The fire danger is severe. On the bay, squalls to 40 knots from around 9 p.m. and again between 2 and 5 a.m. During the day, a southwesterly 15 to 20 knots. Strong winds tomorrow on the bays and all coastal waters. Well, a gusty cool change is due around 9 o'clock in Melbourne tonight. There is a slight chance of a thundery shower, maybe some drizzle early in the morning. We'll have a cloudy morning, but then some afternoon sunshine. 17 to 22 degrees. That means 15 degrees cooler than it was today. Wednesday, a north wind will take us back up to 33 before a mostly dry, cool change and some afternoon bayside sea breezes. And then a cool spell coming up. Thursday, partly cloudy, 21. 20 on Friday, cloudy Saturday with a fresh southerly wind, 21. Sunday, partly cloudy, 22. and breezy with a shower or two next Monday, 21. And that's all from the team here in Melbourne tonight. Keep cool. And now here's Stan Grant with 7:30.